Tony, earlier we were talking about perjury in family court and how they act like it's no big deal. Nobody gets criminal charges for perjury in family court. But that's not the way it is in every courtroom. And in fact, you sent me a clip about a judge that knew what he was doing and knew what perjury was, which is grounds to throw a case and a crime.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a felony. And these three panel judges are exposing some of the family court perjury that was happening in this case. So, yeah, this is a Hardwick versus Verican.
What isn't clearly established here?
The fact that what Costanza says. What's not been clearly established in the year 2000 when this removal occurred was the idea that the right to be free from deliberately fabricated evidence in civil child abuse proceedings that result in the deprivation of a protected liberty interest, the same liberty interest that's at issue.
But it's not the same liberty interest because this was a parental liberty interest.
It's a biological versus foster parent.
That's huge. That's gigantic in terms of what somebody could appreciate and understand. How in the world could a person in the position of, we have to take the facts as they're pleaded in the light most favorable, so, we're not trying the case. But how could a person in the shoes of your clients possibly believe that it was appropriate to use perjury and false evidence in order to impair somebody's liberty interest in the continued care, custody, and control of that person's children? How could they possibly not be on notice that you can't do that?
I understand the...
How could that possibly be?
I understand the argument that it seems to be common sense and our ethical...
It's more than common sense. It's statutes that prohibit perjury and submission of false evidence in court cases.
State statutes.
Are you telling me that a person in your client's shoes couldn't understand you can't commit perjury in a court proceeding in order to take somebody's children away?
Of course not, Your Honor.
Of course not.
Then isn't the case over then?
And the case is over.
Because...
Costanich is distinguishable in my view. How in the world... Costanich deals with a secondary care, foster care. That's a whole strange thing. It's not a person's real child.
Even if Costanich is...
And guardian's the same thing.
Even if Costanich is distinguishable, there is, thus far, we have not been presented with any clearly established right that tells us that what our clients did, which is remove the children pursuant to a court order.
No, but what they're accused of doing and what the issue is here is committing perjury in a court to take away someone's children. And you just said that's obviously not okay to do.
According to our moral compass and our ethical guidelines, but what we're here to decide is the constitutionality of it, and we look to the courts.
You mean due process is somehow consistent with a government official introducing perjured testimony and false? How is that consistent? I mean, I hate to get pumped up about this, but I'm just staggered by the claim that people in the shoes of your clients wouldn't be on notice that you can't use perjury and false evidence to take away somebody's children. That, to me, is mind-boggling.
In criminal proceedings, we know this to be true because that...
No, criminal proceedings, it's a court proceeding with a liberty interest, a fundamental liberty interest at stake.
And on the reverse side, the state...
And you're telling us that these officials who do this all the time couldn't be on notice that you can't commit perjury and put in false evidence.
I understand broadly the principle that common sense tells us that lying is wrong and lying to...
Yeah, but it's more than common sense. We're not using common sense. We're using the statutes, for example, against this kind of behavior.
I was not presented, I have not been seen any federal law, case law, or law that tells me that in this situation that we were faced in, which is what we have to look at.
Say your clients hired 6 people to be actors and to go into court and say, we're neighbors and we saw all this terrible stuff. And then your clients presented those witnesses in court. You're telling me that they would have no reason to believe that you can't do that because there was no federal case that says you can't bring actors into court to swear falsely against somebody.
But again, here we're appealing to sort of a broader definition of what
this is exactly
right. I mean, we have to find the clearly established right in the context that our social
Look at how the word salad comes to her aid to try to. I'm going to try to spell this out. How lying is legal.
Yeah, no, this is exactly what you have when you have a family court attorney dealing with a real court that knows the law.
Yeah.
You know, what's
Yep.
acceptable in family court is absolutely reprehensible in a real court
There's 10
where
seconds.
they have true.
Yeah.
You know,
There's 10 seconds
true
left.
system.
I think he reams her in the last 10 seconds.
Social workers were presented with, which was they were faced with a court order.
You know, again, I can't even believe for a microsecond that a caseworker wouldn't understand you can't lie and put in false evidence.
Wow. Thoughts?
Yeah, that's that's your 3-panel appellate court. That's right before the Supreme Court there in the Ninth Circuit, and all the stuff going through California courts over there too, as well. You know, that case was going up for a few years before it actually got to that point. But yeah, this judge is like understands, and he mentioned it. It says a governmental interest. You know what I mean? That has to do with a fundamental right. You just can't. The government can't take an action, especially on top of even with perjury. And there goes that scripture that you read about lawyers. You know, that you read earlier, Brian. I mean, that was an example of what Jesus was talking about. She's going to just continue to testify in court that her clients didn't do anything wrong. I mean,
Well, look, I mean, ultimately, hopefully, this clip gives people some hope. There are good people out there. There are good people, even in the court system. But, you know, we have to stand up and keep pushing these cases through, keep exposing the evil, and keep fighting. Because, you know, what we're seeing is as we expose the family court as a bunch of freaking liars and a bunch of people that turn the other way with perjury and a separate justice system of injustice, that's what it's going to take. And we got to get people, our pastors in the courtroom. We got to get people standing up and not allowing us to get ramrodded with our rights. And so if everybody in this country did that, this battle will be over in a week. And so I hope in watching this that you've been encouraged. I hope that you can fight for your own rights, and don't be afraid of these courtrooms. Don't be afraid of these judges. And don't be afraid to stand up for what you believe.
Did you want to share anything about the federal breakdown that's coming up, Tony?
okay. Yeah. We're waiting for the judge to make a ruling in the federal lawsuit. And, you know, Benjamin and I have been just talking and discussing about certain strategies that could be used. And to me, it seems pretty obvious that Benjamin's due process rights were violated in this case. He didn't have full opportunity to present his case. And this was part of the argument that's in the operative complaint right now, meaning it hasn't been amended. We're stating that, you know, he didn't have proper opportunity to present, you know, a defense to these accusations of the false accusations. And so that's already in there. And then this court, you know, and this judge just goes and does the same thing and prevents him from finishing his case and presenting the last of his testimony. So I think that, you know, Benjamin might amend this complaint. You know, we're also discussing in the complaint about Title IV defunding, oath of office. So yeah, this thing is still active, and it doesn't matter that we have a judge who's an activist judge. One of the judge on the federal case is the one that's striking down, making ridiculous rulings against Trump, that he's not allowed to fire a particular person or something. It's an activist judge. So we may end up in the circuit court. We're going to fight, you know, as hard as we need to fight. So.
And I know you had mentioned, I believe we're still going to do it, that you'll be sharing the breakdown of the federal, like the structure of it, the case itself. I'll be coming to you and we'll be filming that so people can see exactly how you're working it. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, I just want to read the complaint to teach the people on, you know, this is the Bill of Rights in action. It might seem complicated in there, you know, but there are tools people can use. to be able to make this process easier with some coaching and some education. So yeah, we can break it down in layman's terms. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. With that, we'll roll it out to the trailer. This is the Save the Family trailer that we have produced to help keep everybody informed as to what's going on. And go and watch the full video so you can actually understand how Tony and Benjamin are tackling this case. So God bless you guys in the meantime.
Thank you for watching.
In America, the family home should be sacred, but every day it's invaded without warning, without rights.
Two weeks later, the District of Columbia policeman came to my house and said, "You have to leave." Under duress, I had to leave my home that I had paid for, and I wasn't even able to say goodbye to my sons.
They ripped me from my family based on lies. Now we're fighting to end this nightmare for everyone.
Status and jurisdiction. Who are you and how does the law apply to you? This seems to be the confusion that the courts are using to basically bamboozle you into thinking that you don't have any rights in a courtroom. You are one of we the people. You are under the supreme law of the land. We need to start going on offense. Playing defense in family court is futile, and your attorney is going to defer to the court in his obligation as an officer of the court. We need to understand these things for ourselves and assert our rights.
Parents united for our children. Justice for our kids. We won't back down.
Right now, there's a groundswell in America. People have had enough. People have had enough of the system that they know is wrong instinctively, but they don't know how to fight. Because when they go into the family courthouse, they just want to see their kids. And so they go in and grovel to the judges. They go in and kiss the ring with the hope that maybe if they play by the rules, they'll get to see their kids again. Well, you know what? Now's the time to fight. It's time to fight the system. And if everybody in America decided, we know what, we've had enough of this, we're going to fight. And we're going to remind these judges of their constitutional duty. And Americans start asking, have you taken an oath to the Constitution? Have you taken an oath to uphold the Bill of Rights? If enough Americans band together and we begin to fight these unjust practices, and we begin to fight these family courthouses, we can make a huge difference.
Tony Pellegrino and Benjamin Thomas take on the corrupt family courts in federal battle.
And so it's really, what's amazing to me is that they would have the audacity to try to say, you need a mental exam because you prayed for your child.
Be part of the movement. Don't be a victim. Be a history maker. Save the family.